Happy Thursday. It's January 15th, 2026. It is the actual birthday of Dr. Martin Luther King. He would have been 97 years old. Believe that. The man who marched for freedom, our civil rights leader, our ancestor. But guess what? That was then and it's still today. We are in a civil rights moment today, but we've got a show that's packed for you. Thank you for sipping tea with me, the tea with April. It's so wonderful to be with you again this Thursday. Yes, I think I'm over the neurovirus, but unfortunately, my daughter now has flu B. Oh, but she's all the way over in another city. So wish her well. I'm sending her sending her care packages from home. But let me tell you, we're going to talk about a lot of things today from our trending topics. We're going to also talk to the Lieutenant Governor of the state of Minnesota. And we're also going to talk to a doctor who can help us navigate this vaccine issue and all of this flu, COVID, measles, and norovirus kind of thing that we're going through. But first, let's go to trending topics. We're talking foreign policy, we're talking domestic policy. And is it really policy? Let's talk about what Donald Trump is doing in Iran. Let's talk about U.S. personnel being told to leave Qatar. I talked to ranking member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, Greg Meeks, this week, and take a listen to what he had to say.
The last time that there was an evacuation of U.S. personnel from Qatar, that meant that there was going to be a strike in Iran. And so we know that the president has been threatening to strike Iran, but here we go again. He has not come to Congress. He's not asked for an authorization, for his War Powers Act is concerned. We do not know, have not heard anything, but as you just articulated, so we're trying to read the tea leaves. And I believe that if, in fact, he does strike Iran on this, then I think that it will make things much worse, and leave the American people in worse shape.
Yeah, it leaves the American people in worse shape. And because of these actions, you have a lot of the world community now looking at another part of the world, Greenland. According to the Associated Press, European military personnel are arriving in Greenland in a show of support for Denmark, France, Germany, the UK, Norway, Sweden, and the Netherlands because they're afraid or concerned that President Donald John Trump, not King, but President Donald John Trump will try to make moves to grab Greenland. He's been saying he wants Greenland. We're not making this up. This is real. And now that's foreign policy. Let's go to domestic. I got a text message from a congresswoman 2 days ago who is home with the flu. She said, don't forget about the Epstein files. Well, I'm going to tell you something. They haven't forgotten about the Epstein files or Epstein at all because in Dearborn, at a Ford factory in Dearborn, Michigan this week, it was the F-bomb back and forth. It was a lot going on. Let's take a look at that. The president gave the finger to a unionized worker who had the right, freedom of speech, freedom of peaceful protest to say that. But that worker now, um, he's been slapped on the wrist a little bit. He's been suspended, but he had the right to do that. And the president came back and said, F you, and then gave him the finger. But that unionized worker at that Ford factory, the pickup truck factory, had the right. Remember, he had the right to do that. We have laws in America that allow us to give us the power to speak, to peacefully protest, even against the president. He is not king, even though he thinks he's the emperor with no clothes or new clothes. I don't know. I don't want to see him with no clothes. Anyway, I don't think you do either. Maybe Melania doesn't even, but I digress. But let's go to something else. Freedom of speech. Let's talk about freedom of the press too. This is something that's very concerning for me. Someone who relies on sources a lot, okay? In my job as a White House correspondent, in my job here at the Contrarian, in my job for the last 29 years that I've covered the White House, sources are everything. And we are allowed to protect our sources, right? That's how it's been. That's been the rules and regulations for years. But guess what? Now the FBI has got a warrant to go into a home of a Washington Post reporter, raided her home, took two laptops, office laptop and a personal laptop. They also took her Garmin watch. They also took her phone because not because of her, but because of a source. Where are we going with this? Freedom of the press. And I want to say this, there is retaliation. And I want to play this. I want to play this clip. There is retaliation against the media, especially when we hit home too hard. In 2018, this weekend, I asked the question of the President of the United States. He didn't answer right away. It took him 3 days to answer. But guess what? I'm not worried about what he says. I'm worried about what he does. But because I asked that question, there was serious retaliation. Take a look at my question.
Will you give an apology for the statement yesterday?
Mr. President, did you refer to African nations? You were shitball.
Mr. President, are you a racist? Mr. President, will you respond to these serious questions about your statement, sir?
No, Mr. President, answer the
I'm
phone.
talking to the President, not
I'm
you,
talking
sir.
to you.
Mr. President, are you a racist?
Donald Trump heard me. That's why I'm in independent news right now, and I'm loving it here at the Contrarian with the tea with April. And right now, we're moving into the next phase of our show. I am so honored and I am so pleased. We have, in the midst of chaos, we have the Lieutenant Governor of Minnesota, Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan. Lieutenant Governor, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much.
Thanks
You
so
are
much
a
for having
hero
me.
in this moment. You are a hero in this moment and a voice that we need. And I thank you for saying yes to coming on. Can you give us the lay of the land right now that's happening in Minnesota? Because this is ground zero now for ICE. It used to be LA. It was kind of Portland, kind of Chicago, but it's Minnesota. It's the Twin Cities right now, actually. Can you tell us what's going on?
Absolutely. I mean, so we are seeing these masked agents everywhere across our state who are detaining American citizens, throwing them into vans, violently taking people out of their cars, deploying chemical agents on school property in front of children. And this has sort of all been done under the guise of safety. This has nothing to do with keeping Minnesotans safe. And of course, Renée Good.
Yes, say her name.
Renée Good should be alive.
She should be.
And, as we are seeing, and as we saw from multiple angles, this video footage of what occurred, and then, coming from Donald Trump and Kristi Noem disparaging this woman's memory, it's outrageous. And I keep coming back to the image. Of her vehicle.
Yeah.
With this blood stains on the interior, with stuffed animals flowing out of the glove box. And so it is heartbreaking and infuriating, and it has been this incident, but it's really important for people to know that this killing occurred.
Yes.
But then what has continued to occur, and it's not just in the Twin Cities metro.
Right. It's throughout the whole state.
That's right. And so I think we can be very clear that Minnesotans deserve better, and that we are a resilient people who also feel incredibly determined that we show up for one another and we care about our neighbor. And when we see injustice, we're going to call it out. And I think that you can see, that happening in the midst of stoking this fear and chaos, that we have folks on the ground who are using nonviolent resistance, who are raising their voices. We've got callers and faith leaders on the front line in this moment, and children who've been staging walkouts outside of their school, because they too have been raised in a community where we care about each other, and we will speak up if folks feel like they're under threat.
I hate to say this, and I'm kind of putting a spotlight on my fellow news people, but why aren't we seeing every place else in the state? Is it not as robust? Is ICE not as robust in other parts of the state? I mean, or is it calmer there? I mean, what's going on?
Well, I think part of it is just like sort of the lack of, media coverage, in other communities. But I do think it's just really important. We've seen so many folks who, right, like the most important tool I think that we have right now, are our cell phones.
That's right.
The
Citizen
ability,
journalism.
That's exactly right. And so, had we not had this footage of this killing that occurred, there might be a different story that would be able to, be told without any kinds of checks or balances. And as, we were just this past weekend, I was doing events across the state. We were driving up I-94 and saw that ICE had pulled folks over on the way up north. We had an event in Alexandria at a public library in greater Minnesota. And there were a whole bunch of folks there, and all of a sudden there was buzz that was happening. And they're like, several people were like, we gotta go. There's a raid that's occurring at a restaurant and at a construction site. So we have trained legal observers who had to leave. The same thing happened when we were in the community of Detroit Lakes. Suddenly there was some buzz, and a bunch of people were like, we've got to go because they're at the community center and they're at a business kitty corner from where we are right now. And had on our way to St. Cloud, we had an event in St. Cloud, Minnesota, which is about an hour north of the Twin Cities. And there was a standoff earlier in the day between ICE and members of the community there. And there were elected leaders who really stepped up to help de-escalate the situation. So this is happening across the state. We have to be willing to, to tell the story, and the people have to know their rights too.
That part on this night, which would have been the 97th birthday of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. This is the civil rights movement right now. It's not yesterday. Am I correct? Because listen to this. We're talking about immigration patrols with masks, okay? Mm-hmm. People with masks. In California, they had a law now, you have to take the masks off. Immigration patrols with masks, racial profiling, overreach and deadly force. And there are protests to push this out of the community, to stop this. I mean, what do you think about that? And as we look at this moment, this is ground zero. You are the civil rights movement of today.
That's right. I think we have to come back to, I think we have to come back to what we've known. And I think it's for many of us that the resiliency of being here in this moment is because resilience is in our bones.
Yes.
For a whole bunch of reasons. As a Native woman, I'm not even supposed to exist.
That part.
Right.
That's right.
But I'm here.
Yeah.
And it is because of the resiliency of the folks who've come before. And I think we have to remember the lessons of the movement too, because the sanitized board book version of the civil rights movement that we receive is not going to help us meet this moment right now. So when we think about, it wasn't just that one day Rosa Parks had enough. Right. And she was tired and she just decided, right, that I'm not going to give up my seat. It was months and months of organizing and strategy that this seamstress would be the one. right? And then it was an entire year of folks being very clear that we are going to be organized and that we are going to push back in this moment. But here's the beauty of that too, is that there is a role for everybody in this moment. That if
Yes.
you can't be on the front lines, peacefully being a constitutional observer who's documenting this atrocious behavior on your phone, then you can be answering the call of people who are too frightened to leave their home right now and deliver food to your neighbors.
Yes.
Right? That you can stand outside of school buildings and make sure that our young people are safely getting in the doors and are safely then also being able to exit. And all of us have to raise our voices. And April, I think it's so important that you talk about, Minnesota being, Minnesota is America right now.
Yes, it is. It's cold, but yes, it is America. And I mean, and that's the thing that people don't understand the conditions right now, and all of this melee is going on in these conditions. People are braving temperatures that are bone chilling to protest and fight against this wrongness. And I just want to also shout out Claudette Colvin. She was the first woman who sat down on the bus 9 months before Rosa Parks, and she just passed
She
away.
just passed,
And
absolutely.
yes,
Her memory.
yeah, and it's persistence and consistency that makes a difference in the midst of the chaos. But as we're running out of time, and I'm just so thankful, Lieutenant Governor, for coming on. But how many people do you know for sure have been taken by ICE from the state and particularly from the Twin Cities? And also, what is your conversation with the Attorney General Keith Ellison daily? I know his head is down and he's working hard because this is crazy. The
That's
kind of
right.
stuff, even just from Renée Good, what they're trying to do, trying to give immunity to the ICE officer that killed her.
That's right. I mean, just because JD Vance says that ICE agents have absolute immunity, that doesn't make it true, right?
Right.
That is false. And we have to call it out. The Department of Homeland Security, I think, is saying that since they've been here, they've, arrested 2,400 people. I don't know that we can completely believe facts, figures, or statistics that come out of this institution. So,
Yeah.
but what I do know is that there are far too many citizens who are being arrested and detained. And that's what we have to call out. And I can tell you my little auntie on my mom's side. So this tiny little white lady was driving her vehicle, driving home from a funeral. She had ICE agents around her vehicle, pushed her off the side of the road. They came around the car and she was very sweet. And she said, "Hey guys, how's it going? Congratulations, you just pulled over a 78-year-old white grandmother." And she's pretty clear that the reason that they pulled her over was that she had a Black Lives Matter sticker on her car. They eventually let her go, but these are the
Profiling.
kinds of things that we're seeing. And so what I will tell you is that Attorney General Ellison is an incredible leader. And the AG, alongside the city of St. Paul and the city of Minneapolis, have sued the Department of Homeland Security to get ICE out, and will continue to diligently, do that good work. He has been, I think, Keith Ellison, alongside our Democratic attorneys general, have all, been on the front lines, pushing back and doing what they can. So I am grateful for my big brother Keith and the work that he does every day. And I am grateful to the people of Minnesota who continue to show up every single day to observe, to serve meals to each other, to call out injustice, to do so in a peaceful way, and to know, Prince said about Minnesota,
Prince.
yeah, don't forget, right?
Oh my God. Oh, I never forget the purple rain.
Right.
Oh,
And he said, it's so cold it keeps the bad people out.
that part he sure did. That the
Yeah.
bad
And
people are
so that's
in.
just what
Yeah.
we have to remember, that resiliency is in our bones. We can do this. This may be for the long haul, but we have to continue to show up for each other and do everything we can.
Lieutenant Governor, as you bring up Prince, and I've been a Prince fan ever since I was like in eighth grade. I love Prince, and I still do. But I remember he came to Baltimore over Freddie Gray, and
Hmm.
my heart, I always think, what would it be like if he was still here with George Floyd and now Renee Good in his own home?
That's right.
Oh,
I mean,
well,
and he has given us, there's a whole lot of theology in 3 and 4 minute songs. And so,
I
just
know.
remembering that, our job right now too is to take care of ourselves and to take care of our spirits, as this is a long-term work that many of us have been called to do.
Thank you. We embrace you. If anytime you want to come back, please. We're trying to get a hold of Keith Ellison and Ilhan Omar now, because this is important. The Somali community, any community that's the other in their opinion, the other from those people, the ICE agents who are Proud Boys and any other extremists. Yes, the Proud Boys are members of ICE. Yes, you have a lot of extremists. Am I correct, Lieutenant Governor?
I mean, these
So,
are not, yes, these are folks with masked agents with not a lot of training, who are just bringing chaos and terror to people. We deserve better. Everybody deserves better, regardless of which community you come from. It's time, and it's time for them to go home.
Lieutenant Governor, I know you've got a lot to do. Thank you so much for joining us and knocking the teapot over with me. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Appreciate
You're
you.
awesome. Thank you. Guys, that was Lieutenant Governor uh, Flanagan from Minnesota, Peggy Flanagan. I tell you, this is a moment that this is a moment that we have to hear from everyone who's part of this effort to change the chaos that is sitting in front of us. It's hurtful to watch what's happening. And like I said, Minnesota is not a hot place. It's very cold. And typically, and like she said, what Prince said, Prince did say that. But typically, and I know as a beat reporter, when I was in Baltimore being a reporter, typically a lot of activity doesn't happen in the cold, right? Because it's too cold. It normally happens in warm weather. But guess what? Minnesota, the Twin Cities are ground zero. And she said, according to ICE, Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan, who is amazing, she said ICE says they have deported at least 2,400 people. But she's right. You can't trust it. You don't know for sure. When you can't trust your government, what's going on? And I want to talk to you about something. We didn't talk to her about this, but because of Trump's mindset, he wants to see, he creates agitation. He tried to create agitation in Los Angeles. He tried to create agitation in Portland. He tried to create agitation in New York. He tried to create it in Chicago. He exaggerates, right? But he really wants us to fight back. And that's why we're saying peaceful fighting, because he wants to enact the Insurrection Act. As people are trying to free themselves from this. So this was something that came out of the Civil War, the Insurrection Act. He wants to federalize. He wants to federalize the National Guard. So that's why we keep saying peaceful protest. And he's watching and he's hearing. Remember, he heard those women at the restaurant in DC, Code Pink, who screamed out, "You're Hitler, you're Hitler." He didn't say anything, but this guy, the union worker that's suspended in Michigan, it really got under his skin. That's why he said, F you, F you, F you, and then gave the middle finger. And I want to go to the chat before I bring in our next illustrious guest. I just can't wait to talk to her. She's just amazing. She's a friend and she's going to put it all straight. Um, Iris says the Epstein files is the reason why all craziness has been happening. Diversion, I agree. Daryl says, problem is we are living in an era now that it's no longer about red versus blue. It's now about loyalty versus unloyalty. Yes, but listen to this. The National Guard troops that the president got to come to some of these cities, they're in red states going to blue states. So it is red and blue. It's chaos. I can't function in chaos, but if you do, you try to figure out what's going on. So I get it. It's not red versus blue. It is a loyalty test, but he's grabbing those from the red states to go over to the blue states to create chaos so he can start the Insurrection Act. You got to follow the pieces of the puzzle. It's just a mess. And I hate the fact that I'm understanding it. I guess we're all understanding. I don't want to feel like my mind is like his. I cannot. All right. So Sarah says, so much trauma in the Twin Cities. Abomination. Abomination is exactly what Susan Rice called it last year. Mimi says, all Americans must stand up for Minnesota. This is historic. Yes, it is. Yes. Yes. Rachel says, Minneapolis here. We need all of you. Keep talking, keep sharing. They're making an example of us on purpose. They're seeing what works here. We're the testing ground. That makes me want to cry. I can't imagine, Rachel, thank you. I can't imagine living in a space like that. I'm so sorry. And this is America. Barbara says, what a great conversation. Reminds us we do have fine leaders in our country. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. And don't you ever forget it. Susan, love from Bend, Oregon. I'm a former Minnesotan and Minneapolis resident. We have to change. How can we call ourselves human beings? Guys, keep remembering this stuff. Hold these chat conversations in your heart, because this is what makes change, right? As we sip the tea. This is what makes change. And I want to bring in someone who, now we're going to shift a little bit. I want to bring in someone who knows a lot about a lot in this moment. Because this government is so dysfunctional, we're focusing in on the wrong things. Nobody's talking about the issues of health and wellness. We have outbreaks right now that people are dying from. Where is our Health and Human Services Secretary, Robert Kennedy Jr.? He hasn't said not one daggone thing. So what I want to do is bring in Dr. Gigi El-Bayoumi. She is a physician. She researches. She works on several things. She was part of a group of minority doctors who worked on the issue of COVID when the COVID outbreak happened. She's very knowledgeable about these things. She has a lot of clientele that I can't tell you who they are, but she's very knowledgeable. Dr. Gigi El-Bayoumi, Dr. Jihan, that's her name, but we call her Gigi. Hello there, my friend. How are you?
Good evening. And actually, it was the Black Coalition Against COVID that Dr. Reed Tuckson and a number of us, but it was really his brainchild that co-founded it. And really, I would urge your audience members to look it up, because it became a national model, and it really did move the needle on vaccinations among African Americans at a time when there was so much distrust. But can I say something about your
Yes.
last show or last segment? First of all, I'm from Michigan, and I want to tell you, things do get done even in the cold. Number one. Number two, bad people have better PR than good people, but we're here. And so we need to get our PR out. And then we should look back in history at other successful groups, the anti-apartheid movement, the civil rights movement, all these movements.
This is the civil rights movement right now.
Exactly, right? So this is important for us to look back so that we can move ahead.
Guys, you see why I got her on today. Come on. You sipping the tea with me, Dr. Gigi.
Wow.
So listen, people are getting sick, especially in the DC area. My daughter's now sick. I told her to reach out to you. She's got flu B. I said, girl, people are getting sick, and we are not hearing from the Health and Human Services Secretary. Unfortunately, everybody doesn't have a doctor like you who really advocates for your patients. How do we self-advocate for ourselves in this moment when we don't know if we should take the vaccine or not, if we can trust this administration with the vaccine? I mean, what should we do in this moment?
Sure. I can understand the confusion, and really, doctors are a small piece. It's actually the public health system that has been completely torn apart. And let me just say, I'm a physician. I'm proud of being a physician, but I just want to acknowledge all the clinicians, all the pharmacists, public health, because it really takes all of us to impact public's health. So that's number one. The distrust that was injected into already a system where there was a lot of distrust and mistrust because of all the historical reasons that we know was, I believe, deliberately injected. We can talk about why that is, but let's talk about what's happening right now. Right now, there are some huge influenza outbreaks, and they're going all over the country. It's influenza A and B, and over the holidays, my neighbors
Influenza is the flu, guys. Influenza
flu,
A and B.
yeah, the
Yes.
flu. My neighbors across the hall, Terry and Mira, they've got 2 kids, and they called me because their son was vomiting up blood. And I said, well, you got to take him to the emergency room. It was influenza B. So you've got children, you've got, young adults, such as your daughter, you've got middle-aged people, and then you've got the elderly. But what the Dr. Mehmet Oz, that, snake oil peddler, I cannot believe that he said this. He said, well, really, the vaccine doesn't really work. So that
I
is,
used to like him.
I'm sorry, I never liked him. He was always
Okay.
sleazy to me, but that's another story. We gotta get your radar tuned up.
Okay, yes. Well, that's why I listen to you. Come on, yes.
So what he said is that the flu vaccine is not effective, which is garbage. First of all, I think that we have to be clear that vaccines don't completely prevent the illnesses that you're vaccinating against, but they do reduce death and hospitalizations. Okay, that does happen. So that does happen across all age groups. That makes a big, big difference, however, when you have somebody like a grandparent who's dealing with cancer. My dad has prostate cancer. Those are the really vulnerable groups. Babies are vulnerable. Children are vulnerable. Any number of people. We've got vulnerable people all around us, but we might not even know it. Because all those TV advertisements that you see on different medications, guess what? Those are immunosuppressants. So they may be taking them for psoriasis or some GI disorder, but their immune system is impacted and they are particularly vulnerable. So that's number one. The way that the vaccines are made is actually not very sophisticated. They look at the circulating strains from last year and try to make their best guess as to what is going to be present this year. I've heard a lot of skepticism from my patients and others to say, well, is this safe given who the administration is? That's a separate, right. And I can understand that, but that's separate. They're not manufacturing.
But they have a right, because if you have a president talking about a flashlight and bleach in your body, the
Yes.
first term.
Yes. Right. But he does not have anything to do with the manufacturing and the production. That's still intact. I mean, the state is being dismantled. So far, this part is still present. Okay. And the reason we know that is proof. The proof is always in the pudding. The people that get vaccinated don't tend to die, right? So we have to be always governed by data and evidence, right? So,
and he's cutting that out too.
Right. Well, let's remember one thing. Steve Bannon years ago said that you have to throw out all this disinformation out to keep people on their toes. So let's not fall into the trap. And that's why I'm so happy to have the opportunity to talk with you now. So yes, there are these big outbreaks. And I want to talk about, other than immunizations, what you can do to protect yourself. During COVID, people were washing their hands. I can tell you that they're not washing their hands anymore. And compulsively wash your hands. When the kids get home from school, wash their hands. Got to wash behind their ears and their neck. That has been shown to reduce respiratory infections. And wash not just the hands, but up to the elbow. And you do that after you've used the bathroom, after you've been around anybody. And, masks. Masks are important. They make a difference. And let me tell you, I
never stopped wearing mine.
Well, let me tell you, I was on I went to my nephew's wedding in Colombia. Nobody on the plane was wearing a mask, and people were coughing and sneezing and don't even have the courtesy to cover their mouth. So there are some basic things. We know that vitamin C, 1,000 milligrams or 2,000 milligrams, boosts your immune system. Check with your clinician, make sure it's okay for you to take it. We know that sleep boosts your immune system. We know that falling in love boosts your immune system, but breaking up depresses it. So don't break up.
Break up after the flu season is over.
Exactly. And try to find somebody, before. And then, of course, eating right, junk food, and all do not follow the Trump diet. Let's just put it this way, do the opposite.
Yeah.
So, and of course, physical activity, not necessarily going to the gym, but just being physically active. And then really your outlook on life actually impacts your immune system. And how do you keep your outlook positive in the midst of all this? And, you know, Taraji Henson, who has the Henson Foundation, I'm on her tribal advisory board, had a recent beautiful conference. And she said, we all have to look for glimmers of hope every single
Yeah.
day.
That's true.
And my glimmer of hope is to look outside my window every morning and look at the beautiful trees. My glimmer of hope is to have a conversation with you, Ms. April. No, truly. I mean, we have to remind ourselves of our humanity. I would say that this administration, of which the person that you mentioned is a figurehead, because there's a lot of planning going around there, they don't have humanity. And one thing that I always tell people is nobody can take our own humanity away from us. Nobody.
I like that. No one can take our own humanity away from us. So Dr. Gigi practices, tell them where you practice in DC.
Yes, I'm a professor of medicine at Georgetown, and I practice at the MedStar, which is the clinical arm of Georgetown.
Yeah. And she's really good at what she does. She's very well known. But guys, what she says the manufacturers, Donald Trump has not touched. That's important. And what she's saying is important as well. But also, I talked to someone, I cannot say the name, but someone very high up who has dealt on a historic level with infectious diseases. They said, look, because of such uncertainty out here, with the institutions that we've known, like CDC and HHS, there are a lot of highly regarded doctors that have gone out and compiled something for you. It's called the Vaccine Integrity Project. The Vaccine Integrity Project is actually online. You can go to it, look it up. The Vaccine Integrity Project. It talks about all of this stuff now, and it's a very good guide along with what Dr. Gigi is saying. So please, it's called the Vaccine Integrity Project. I want you to go look at that if you have any questions as well. Now, I want to go to the chat. All right, guys, I see what you're saying. Judah said the worm in RFK's brain is affecting him. Lord have mercy. Adam says April always has the best guests. Thank you, Adam. Vivian says listen to doctors and ignore the snake oil salesman. That's true. You talked about the snake oil. Joanne says if you've had the flu, should you still get the flu shot? That's a good
Very
question.
good question. That's an excellent question. So, yes, you should, because there are different strains, but you have to wait until you feel better. I would wait at least a couple of weeks after you've recovered. And if I can add, because one of my dear friends just got diagnosed with triple negative breast cancer and had to start her chemotherapy.
Black woman.
Actually, no, surprisingly. I said, you got to get your genetic testing done.
Yeah, because Black women are
Oh, I
more
know.
prone to
Trust
triple
me, I
negative breast
know.
cancer. Yeah.
Actually, the dean of Howard's Medical School, you might want to have her on. Her research is on triple negative breast cancer. And it turns out that there are 7 tribes in West Africa that, you know, the people that were kidnapped from West Africa have this particular protein. And so her research focuses on that. But this woman with the triple negative breast cancer, her oncologist, actually today was her first day of chemo. Nobody talked to her about getting vaccinated. So I gave her a list. And so it wasn't only influenza, it was pneumonia, it was tetanus, it was shingles and RSV.
And no one taught her. See, that's bad. And see, what people don't realize, the late great Colin Powell had cancer and in COVID, and he was vaccinated, but that the chemo wiped it out.
Yes.
And people don't understand those things. So that's interesting. And Susan says such beautiful words, glimmers of hope. Thank you. That's what we're here to do. That's what we're here to do. Also, so now let's talk about the change in vaccine recommendations recently.
Sure.
What do you think about that? I'm shocked.
Oh, there's so much to be shocked about. And then let me just say one more thing. For those of us born before 1965, we have to make sure that we are immune or have enough immunity against mumps, measles, and rubella, because not only is measles outbreak, but also mumps. And so it's a blood test. And then if you're low, you just get a vaccine. So going back to the changes in the recommendations, which really disproportionately impact people of color, people who are of poor backgrounds, et cetera. Remember what vaccines do. One of the things that they do is they prevent, infectious diseases, but they also prevent cancer. Did you know that hepatitis B prevents liver cancer? Did you know that the HPV vaccine prevents cervical cancer? So that's one of the other things that it does. But here is something
And
that
our kids get those HPV,
absolutely, right?
when they
And
were young.
cervical cancer is higher among African American women, right? So the other thing that almost always convinces my patients who are reluctant to get the vaccines is listen to this. Influenza, pneumonia, tetanus, shingles, and RSV reduce dementia by 40%.
Oh,
I'm going to repeat that because people are, please look it up. Okay. The shingles, the tetanus, the flu, pneumonia, and RSV. So, why is that, might you ask? We don't have enough data on COVID, but I will predict it will do the same thing. These viruses like to go to the nervous system. And so shingles, for example, never leaves our bodies, right? If we had chicken pox as children, it still hides in our bodies. And that's why you see all these advertisements for people, above 50 to get their vaccines, because if it comes back, it's awful. But what it does is that constant inflammation of the brain clogs up the brain with proteins that shouldn't be there, which can lead to dementia. Any inflammation in the body is not good, right?
wow.
Right. So get your teeth cleaned on a regular basis.
That part.
Right. Eat healthy. I really believe in vaccines. But again, people will say, well, how do I know if information is true, right? Because there's a lot of garbage that's out there. And especially with AI, it can be really tough to tell the difference, right? Well, in terms of vaccines, can you please repeat the name of that website? Because I think that's so important.
Vaccine Integrity Project, the Vaccine Integrity Project.
Okay. Did somebody put it in the chat? Because I think that's so important.
Okay, well, it's not the chat. We're actually going live on Substack, but the Vaccine Integrity Project. We'll make sure, yeah.
Okay,
Well,
yeah. So the other group actually that has very reliable information are the European equivalents of the CDC. Right.
Who are they?
Well, I mean, just Google European CDC. I don't know exactly what their names
Okay.
are.
Okay.
Google whatever country you'd like, but that's another way of kind of circumventing the. And then there's a really good website called the Cochrane Collaborative, COCHRANE Collaborative. What's great about it is that they review all the world's literature in English. And they say, you know what, this is not a good quality study. This is a good quality study. And then they have a scientific for clinicians, researchers, and then they have one for the public.
I appreciate you. What you said is so important. If we have questions about the vaccines, the vaccine manufacturing organizations have not been tampered with. And so that's a good thing to know. So as I'm preparing to go get my flu and COVID vaccine now and staying in the house, so nobody, I'm wondering if it's airborne because so many people are getting hit with it.
Of course it is.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
It's not person to person more, so it's just airborne.
No, it's in the air. And then remember that things like your phone or any devices, we touch our hairbrushes, whatever we touch.
Wow.
And can I just say one more thing, Ms. April?
Yes.
You know that RFK Jr., whose father is probably spinning in his grave, does not want mRNA vaccines, right? Well, guess what? There are at least 2 mRNA vaccines that are being developed against dementia and numerous ones against cancer.
That's why we have you, Dr. Gigi El-Bayoumi. And if you look her up, it's Jehan, Jehan.
But they can find me under Gigi, G-I-G-I.
Okay.
Thank you. And by the way, I'm not the only one that's got good information out there.
I know you don't, but I know you. I know, but I know you, and I know who you are and what you do and who you do it with. So it's so important that people hear from someone who's out there practicing and fighting. This is a resistance time. We need resistance in medicine, resistance in Minnesota. This is the civil rights moment. And that's why I got you here. Thank you for sipping some tea. And you know what my tea is? You told me I could have dandelion. I got dandelion, hibiscus, and white tea.
And remember, we are all Minnesotans.
Yes, we are. Thank you. Guys, I'm telling you, I feel good now. I feel good getting ready to go to get my vaccine. I'm telling you, I feel good now because I heard from Dr. Gigi, and I hope you feel the same way. And she said a lot of these vaccines prevent dementia and cancer. See, those are the things that you don't hear. This is a resistance movement. This is resistance with information. Resistance with information. Be armed to fight the battle. You know, we fight in different ways. We fight in different ways. My fight is information. I'm not new to this. I'm true to this. I'm not trying to what do they call me? They call me a race baiter. I'm not a race baiter. I'm somebody who is, and they call me, what else they call me? They call me an activist. I'm an activist for information. I'm an activist for people being informed because people who don't know better, they won't do better. And in this moment when they're trying to send the wrong narrative to us so we can be lambs at the slaughter, let me tell you something, I'm not going to let that happen. I'm so thankful for the guests today because this is an important moment. So, like I said earlier, it's not yesterday. This is the civil rights movement. The civil rights movement moment is now. If you don't believe me, look at Minnesota. If you don't believe me, look at the protests out in the street. If you don't believe me, look at your pocketbook. I talked to someone today. There are more delinquencies for these creditors than you've ever heard before. People are hurting. Go to the grocery store. The same package that you used to have has less salmon in it, or less asparagus, or less fruit in it, okay? Or less candy in it, but the same price and even higher. We are in a time where we cannot afford to sit back. You've got to advocate for yourself. This is a civil rights moment. And typically, when we talk about civil rights, it's peaceful protesting. And that's what we need to do. Because again, if we go out there violently, Donald Trump wants to implement the Insurrection Act, federalizing the National Guard. Look at what's happening in Minnesota. As we talk about Minnesota, and the Lieutenant Governor, Peggy Flanagan, came on. I'm so thankful that she was here. Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan talked about what's happening in the street. But think about this. Minneapolis, Minnesota, and St. Paul, Minnesota, each city has 600 police officers. How many ICE agents are there? Thousands overrunning the police, taking over, racially profiling. Renée Good wasn't Somalian. She wasn't Latina. She was a white woman with a bunch of stuffed animals coming out of her glove compartment. And she told that ICE agent, I'm not mad at you. And she was very pleasant. And then he in turn called her a B word, effing B, and then pulled the trigger. Shot her 3 times in the face. A white woman. She wasn't Somali, a white woman. And who are these ICE agents? And the lieutenant governor said it. Proud Boys and extremist people who don't have to take any kind of tests. Half of them can't read and write, probably. I've heard that. They don't have de-escalation training. They are escalating situations, provoking people to fight. This is a moment that's an assault on our democracy. We talked about what happened with the journalist at the Washington Post, the Free Press. I want you to remember, yesterday is today. We're still fighting for democracy in the press. And I want you to hear from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. on this, if he were alive, would be his 97th birthday. This was the speech, his mountaintop speech, part of his mountaintop speech. in Memphis, Tennessee, the night before he died. Team.
Maybe I could understand the denial of certain basic First Amendment privileges because they haven't committed themselves to that over there. But somewhere I read of the freedom of assembly. Somewhere I read of the freedom of speech. Somewhere I read of the freedom of press. Somewhere I read that the greatness of America is the right to protest far right. And so just as I say we aren't going to let any dogs or water hoses turn us around, we aren't going to let any injunction turn us around. Well, I don't know what will happen now. We've got some difficult days ahead. But it really doesn't matter with me now because I've been to the mountaintop.
The greatness of America is the right to protest for right. That was, Dr. King was killed in 1968, 9 months after I was born. That was 1968, guys. It stands for today. It stands for today. Dr. King's words have always touched me since I was a kid. I was one of those weird little nerds. I used to go home and my parents would have that big old stereo system that looked like a coffin. Slide the little door open at the top. And I would, my weird little self, I would take Dr. King's 33 and 75 albums and listen to them. Those things mean something to me. Those words mean something to me. Guys, this is the civil rights moment of the day. Civil rights movement, moment, whatever you want to call it. Patricia says, such a great show. News you can use. Amen. So what I want you guys to do as we close out this show, don't forget to subscribe so you can continue to get this great information and great topics, be it with Jen and Norm, with Coffee With, or Tea with April, you know. Subscribe, 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 because you're going to get stuff here that you're not going to get in other places. And don't forget, if you want to talk to me, call in and ask me a question. Please call 202-240-8617. 202-240-8617. And before I leave you, I want to say this. There's a song that I've been playing all day long. It's the Aretha Franklin version as well as the Donny Hathaway version. Take it from me, someday we'll all be free. Yes, we will. Take care. You know what time it is. It's Thursday. It's 5:01 and the tea is piping hot.
April Ryan in the room asking the questions.
We got to go into the community and educate and explore as well as expose our young people about what is taking place in our history, because Black history is American history.
To hear the President of the United States say we're talking about all the bad things about slavery, well, tell me what was good about slavery. What was the good thing that we didn't tell about slavery?
Our lives as Black people has been struggle, and then we make progress. And then we make progress, and then we get slapped down, and then we have to do it over and over again.
President Trump has put in his mouth the names of cities like Oakland, California, a city that is run by a Black woman mayor.
He trashed us. We're ready. He's threatened us. We're ready, and we're keeping the city safe. We don't cooperate with ICE.
What are you hearing as it relates to Trump asking the National Guard to deploy to Baltimore? What can you do if they are deployed?
I am the Commander-in-Chief of the Maryland National Guard. Period and full stop. I will not authorize the usage of our National Guard for something that is not mission critical or mission aligned.
People thought Project 2025 was some sort of a hocus pocus and a joke. They thought that this thing, oh no, that they're just making that up. Oh, really? Why do you think they're going after higher education the way they are?
You may not be politically engaged, but everybody is politically impacted.
We are the most resilient people on the planet, and we have the ability to shape our future.
Do not be overwhelmed, do not become depressed, do not become hopeless, and do not become afraid. And do not let this fascist government divide us. Black, brown, and white, people of conscience, have to join together in a non-violent resistance.
I'm sipping my tea. You knocked the pot over.
Yes, we have knocked the pot over for about a year. I was so upset. I was verklempt for a little bit with that Dr. King situation. I forgot our year celebration, all the people that we've had on. I mean, that's just a small smattering of those we've had on. And January 13th was the year anniversary for the Contrarian. I'm so honored and pleased and proud to be working with an amazing group of people. I want to thank Rachel for and her team for putting this compilation video together. You put your foot in that, Rachel. Yes, you did. And but I just want you guys to know that we are here for you, and we're going to keep on giving you some great news that you can use, information, etc., that impacts your life. You get a chance to talk to us. You get a chance to chime in. Your questions, your comments are heard by me and these leaders that come on. So I want you to stay tuned and subscribe. Thank you. Thank you for joining and staying with us on the Contrarian and the Tea with April. We are so grateful. We got a lot more in store. Don't forget to subscribe. And thank you for the year, and thank you for supporting me. Again, someday we'll all be free. Peace.